You ever wonder why sometimes, despite doing everything right, being nice, attentive, saying all the right words, she just doesn't seem drawn to you? And yet, there's that one guy who barely says a word, doesn't do half of what you do, and she's hooked. Let me tell you something that might stop you in your tracks. Female attraction isn't logical. It's emotional. It's psychological. It's deeply rooted in instinct, far beneath the surface of conscious thought. That's the first amazing truth we need to understand if we're ever going to unlock the code to female desire. We often try to approach attraction with logic. If I'm successful, if I'm respectful, if I treat her well, then she'll be attracted to me. That sounds reasonable, and it might even work in theory, but human behavior doesn't always follow logic, especially not when it comes to attraction. Women don't sit down and calculate desire, they feel it. And what triggers those feelings often bypasses everything that makes sense on paper. You see, female attraction is sparked not by what you do necessarily, but by how you make her feel, its emotional signals, nonverbal cues, energy, and presence. She's not consciously making a checklist. Her subconscious is reading your behavior like radar, scanning for confidence, certainty, unpredictability, emotional regulation, and how you handle yourself under pressure. That's why a man who's calm, grounded, and doesn't feel the need to prove himself often creates more desire than a man who's constantly trying to impress. Think about this. A man might say the perfect words, buy the perfect gifts, and show the perfect affection, but if she doesn't feel that raw pull toward him, if her emotional instincts aren't triggered, it won't matter. That's why sometimes the guy who remains a little distant, a little less available, suddenly feels more attractive. It's not that he's being manipulative, it's that his detachment signals power. It communicates that his world doesn't revolve around her approval, and that subtle message stirs something deep within her. We often underestimate how much power is in energy. You don't need to be loud or flashy. A calm presence, a steady voice, and eyes that don't flinch under pressure say more than 100 compliments. It's about your internal state, when your energy says, I'm centered. I'm not chasing. I'm not performing. It creates a space where she can feel something without being forced to. And that space, open, unpressured, free, is where attraction actually breathes. This is why so many men feel confused when they treat a woman perfectly, but she doesn't respond with desire. It's not that kindness turns her off. It's that when kindness is laced with approval seeking or neediness, she can feel it. And it subtly kills attraction, because deep down her desire responds to strength, not desperation, to emotional stability, not over-eagerness, to presence, not performance. Present. A woman doesn't fall for a resume. She doesn't get turned on by data points. She feels drawn to energy that she feels safe in, but also intrigued by, emotional charge, that electricity that can't be forced, only created by who you are, not what you show off. And sometimes the most attractive thing you can do is simply be without trying to win her. Understanding that female attraction is driven by emotion, not logic, changes everything. It forces you to stop asking, what should I say? And start focusing on, what energy am I giving off? Because if the energy is aligned, if the emotional atmosphere you create is right, you won't need to say much at all. She'll feel it. And when a woman feels something, she moves. Let me ask you something. Have you ever pulled away from a woman, maybe unintentionally, and suddenly she started reaching out more? She became more curious, more interested, more attentive. And you thought to yourself, why is she chasing me now that I'm not trying as hard? That's not a coincidence. That's human behavior. Female psychology, to be exact, and it reveals one of the most powerful truths about attraction. Women are more drawn to a man who has the strength to walk away than one who chases them relentlessly. This can be hard to accept because many of us have been told that to win a woman's heart, you need to pursue, impress, prove, and constantly show her you care. And yes, there's nothing wrong with genuine care. But the problem begins when care turns into clinginess and interest turns into obsession. When you constantly chase her, you become predictable, overly available, and too easy to win. And here's the reality. What comes too easy is rarely valued. You see, the ability to walk away doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're heartless or playing games. It means you know your worth. It means you're willing to let go of anything that doesn't align with your standards and self-respect. And when a woman sees that in a man, something inside her shifts. She starts to feel your value, not just hear you talk about it. When a man has options, or at least the mindset that he doesn't need to beg or cling for connection, his energy becomes different. He stops operating from scarcity and starts living in abundance. That energy, that quiet confidence, is what pulls her in. It shows her that your attention is earned, not handed out freely to anyone who bats their eyelashes. And the irony, the less you need her validation, the more she wants yours. The less you chase, the more she feels the urge to move toward you. Why? Because human nature is wired to pursue what seems just out of reach. That tension, that distance creates desire. It awakens a part of her mind that starts to ask, why isn't he trying to win me like the others? What does he know that they don't? What makes him so secure? You don't need to be rude. You don't need to ghost her or play childish games. But you do need to be willing to walk away if the connection isn't being reciprocated with mutual energy. That willingness, calm, silent, and rooted in dignity, is powerful. It sets a boundary without even speaking it. And when she senses that boundary, respect is born. And with respect comes attraction. Too many men lose themselves in pursuit. They abandon their standards, their priorities, even their identity, just to keep a woman interested. But you can't force desire. You can't earn respect by overgiving. In fact, every time you sacrifice your self-respect just to maintain a connection, you lose a little bit of the very thing that made you attractive in the first place. So here's the truth. When you show her that you want her, but you don't need her, that your life is full, purposeful, and complete with or without her, she notices. Not because you said it, but because you lived it. Because she can feel that you're not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't honor your value. And that silent power, that's what makes her stop, think, and realize you're not like the rest. Let me ask you something that might flip everything you've believed about attraction. Have you ever noticed how women react differently when you take the lead, make decisions, or simply stand firm in what you believe? It's like their energy shifts. They lean in a little more. They listen a little closer. That's not random. That's not ego. That's biology. Because here's a powerful truth. Women are deeply drawn to subtle dominance. Not control, not aggression, but a calm, quiet authority that knows where it's going. We're not talking about domination here. We're talking about direction, about presence, the kind of masculine energy that doesn't need to shout to be felt. A man who knows what he wants and moves with intention, even if he says very little, will always be more attractive than a man who constantly asks for permission to exist in her life. Because women don't want a man who tries to control them. They want a man who can lead them emotionally, mentally, energetically. In a world full of indecision, emotional chaos, and performative masculinity, the man who stands grounded in his truth becomes rare, and rare things are valuable. When a woman sees that you're not easily swayed by her moods, not rattled by her tests, and not manipulated by her silence, she starts to feel something she can't even explain. It's that deep sense of safety and polarity, where your direction allows her to relax into her femininity. This is where attraction intensifies, because now you're not just a man she's talking to, you become a man she feels, a man whose actions say, I've got this, without ever needing to raise your voice or flex your strength. And when a woman feels that emotional security, the ability to let go, to stop overthinking, to trust your lead, it awakens her desire. So what does subtle dominance actually look like? It's in the way you handle conflict without emotional chaos. It's in your ability to say no without guilt. It's how you decide where you're going to eat without flipping the question back 10 times. It's when you plan something instead of endlessly asking what she wants to do. It's when your presence calms a room not because you're loud, but because you're certain. Too many men think being dominant means being cold, distant, or controlling. That's insecurity dressed in a costume. Real dominance comes from self-restraint, not trying to control others. It's about direction, not dictatorship. Women are not looking for someone to overpower them. They're looking for someone who can stand with them and still remain unshaken. Someone who moves forward with conviction, regardless of who is watching. And when you bring that kind of energy into a relationship, it's no longer about chasing her or begging for attention. It becomes about creating a dynamic where she can naturally lean into you, not because you forced her to, but because your energy made her feel safe to. And that feeling of safety, combined with curiosity, with a sense of, he's leading, but I still have space, that's what pulls her in deeper. So if you want to ignite real attraction, don't focus on saying the perfect words or being overly agreeable. Start by being a man of quiet strength, a man of direction, someone who knows who he is and doesn't ask for permission to be him. Because in that grounded certainty, you won't just catch her attention, you'll earn her desire. Have you ever tried really hard to connect with a woman? Opened up emotionally, shared everything about your past, your intentions, your dreams, only to feel her slowly pull away? It's confusing, right? You think you're building connection by being transparent, by being emotionally available, by showing her the real you. But the truth is, sometimes what you reveal too soon can kill the very thing that builds attraction. And that's mystery. What many men don't realize is that women are turned on by what they don't know more than what they do. We live in a world that constantly tells you to communicate everything, to express, explain, and over-clarify. But when it comes to attraction, especially early on, less is often more. The man who leaves a little to the imagination, who isn't always an open book, creates emotional tension. And that tension is magnetic. Women are naturally curious. They want to uncover layers, to figure you out, to sense your depth through experience, not just words. Now, this doesn't mean you should be deceptive or play mind games. It means you don't need to hand over every detail of your life in the first few conversations. You don't need to explain every emotion, every past relationship, or every thought that crosses your mind. When you do that too early, you remove the element of discovery. And discovery is a major ingredient of female desire. You see, when a woman doesn't know everything about you, her mind starts to work. She starts thinking about you, wondering what you're doing, trying to figure out what makes you tick. That mental space where she's actively engaged in trying to understand you is where attraction grows. The more you reveal too soon, the less space she has to imagine. And when imagination dies, so does curiosity. And when curiosity dies, desire quickly follows. Mystery doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being selective. It's about letting your actions speak louder than your words. You don't need to say, "I'm confident," when your calm presence already proves it. You don't need to announce that you're successful when how you carry yourself already communicates it. There's something incredibly powerful about being composed, unbothered, and not needing to overshare to be understood. Women often fall for men who they feel have more going on than what's being presented. A man with layers. A man who might have emotions but isn't ruled by them. A man who listens more than he speaks, not because he's hiding, but because he doesn't feel the need to convince anyone of who he is. That silence, that control, that's attractive. So when you meet someone, resist the urge to dump everything out all at once. Let her earn pieces of you over time. Let her wonder a little. Let her discover. Because what is discovered is valued far more than what is handed over freely without effort. When you keep a sense of mystery, not by pretending, but by living with quiet strength, you make yourself unforgettable. She won't just remember what you said. She'll remember how you made her feel, intrigued, drawn in, just a little bit off balance in the best way. That emotional pull, that's the power of mystery. Use it and you'll never need to chase. Let me say something that might shake up how you think about attraction. If she didn't have to work for your attention, she's not going to value it. I know that sounds harsh, especially if you're someone who's been taught to be generous with your time, your compliments, your energy. But this is a hard truth. Effort breeds emotional investment, and when you give everything too easily, without any resistance, any standard, or any expectation, you actually rob her of the chance to value you. Now, this doesn't mean being cold or disrespectful. It means understanding that what people work for, they cherish. And this is no different when it comes to female attraction. A woman will be more attracted to a man who makes her earn his time than to one who gives it away at the first smile. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. And women feel that on a deep level. You have to understand, Women are not attracted to men who constantly seek their approval. That constant availability, that eagerness to please, that just tell me what to do and I'll do it energy, it kills tension. And when there's no tension, there's no spark. When a woman doesn't feel like she's earning something from you, there's no challenge, no intrigue, no reward. It's just comfort. And comfort is safe, but it's not sexy. Real attraction thrives in a space where a woman feels like your attention is valuable and that she had to do something to deserve it. That doesn't mean you make her jump through hoops. It means you're not just handing over your energy to anyone. You set a standard. You protect your time. You show up for yourself before you show up for others. And that kind of behavior, without saying a single word, tells her, I'm not like the rest. This is where so many men go wrong. They think that giving more is going to create more attraction, more texts, more compliments, more time. But what they're really doing is flooding her with energy she didn't have to work for. And when you do that, she doesn't see it as a gift. She sees it as normal, expected, maybe even desperate. And just like that, the thing you thought would bring her closer actually pushes her further away. Instead, imagine what happens when she senses that you're not giving your full attention to just anyone, that your time is earned, that your energy is limited and valuable. She starts to notice the little things. She pays closer attention. She puts an effort to impress you, to engage you, to hold your focus. And when she finally gets your attention, it means something. Why? Because she invested something first. This is how desire works. People want what feels just slightly out of reach. Not impossible, but not handed over either. When she's had to contribute to the connection, emotionally, mentally, or even just with effort, it becomes more real to her. She's not just experiencing you, she's bought in. And that's when attraction deepens. So don't be so quick to overextend. Hold your ground, make her invest a little, let her wonder where she stands, give her the opportunity to show up for you, not because you're playing games, but because you know your value. You're not here to convince her to want you. You're here to give her the privilege of discovering why she should. Let me tell you something most men don't realize until it's too late. Being a good guy isn't enough. Being safe, respectful, and emotionally available, while important, isn't the full picture when it comes to attraction. Because here's the truth that flips everything. A woman's desire doesn't come alive when she just feels safe. It peaks when she feels safe and challenged at the same time. You can make her feel comfortable, but if there's no spark of unpredictability, no emotional pull, no edge, then attraction fades fast. This is why so many men fall into the friend zone. They create emotional safety, they're great listeners, they support her, they never make her feel judged. But what they forget is that while safety opens the door, challenge keeps her walking through it. And by challenge, I don't mean conflict or being difficult for the sake of it. I mean being a man who's emotionally solid, but not always easy to figure out. A man she can trust, but also one who constantly pushes her to stay mentally and emotionally engaged. Women aren't attracted to men who make life predictable and boring. They're attracted to men who can hold space for them, who give them room to express and feel secure, but who also stir something inside them. A sense of, I can trust him, but I don't quite have him yet. That subtle uncertainty, that dynamic where she can relax in your presence but still feel excited by your unpredictability is where attraction thrives. Most men try to play it safe. They think being available at all times, agreeing with everything she says, or avoiding conflict will keep her interested. But what they don't see is that they're dulling the very edge that keeps her attention. When a woman feels that you're too easy to understand, too eager to please, too emotionally soft all the time, she stops feeling pulled. Her mind stops racing. Her heart stops wondering. And that's when the attraction fades into comfort, then comfort into indifference. Now, don't confuse challenge with toxic behavior. It's not about withholding love or affection or playing games. The challenge she craves isn't manipulation, it's depth. It's your ability to say no when it matters, to have boundaries, to live with purpose outside of her, to call her out when she's being unreasonable, not to hurt her, but to ground her. It's when you can be emotionally available, but not emotionally dependent. That's when she starts to feel both secure and excited. That's when she starts to feel something powerful. The man who can make her feel protected, yet keep her guessing just a little. The man who can give her consistency, but still surprise her with depth or boldness. That's the man she doesn't forget. That's the man she becomes emotionally addicted to, because she feels both calm and curious around him. That tension, that polarity, is what ignites female desire. You can't bore your way into her heart. You can't nice guy your way into long-term attraction. What you can do is show up as a man who owns his space, who gives her emotional safety, and at the same time keeps her on her toes. Let her feel your presence, but never make her feel like she has you completely figured out, because the moment she does, the fire begins to die. Attraction isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, strong, grounded, and just unpredictable enough to keep her heart awake.